money, Daddy.
You must be putting it in. That's alright, I'll take over.
Lots and lots and lots.
Oh no, that's mine, darling. Not your money box. That's Mummy's. You need to put it in your. I don't want to get the petals falling out. It'll just come.
1 2 1 2. Hello, hello, hello.
I'm with you, mate. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I've just got here.
Oh, cool.
Well, no, I haven't. I've been in another room.
Oh, what are you doing in there?
I don't know. I followed the link you sent, and I finished up in this weird control panel that I've never seen before. That I was in a hangout, and I started talking, but I couldn't share screen. And then I then I looked into YouTube and saw that your chart was up, and I just started scratching my head. Then I started typing Skype messages to you, and not one of them went through.
Oh, that's strange. I was going to say maybe it was the
weird shit going on here somewhere.
I thought maybe it was the new system that they were trying. So it's not that then.
Well, maybe it is, mate. But now I'm in the regular. I see we've got a different little icon on our control panel next to the microphone, which is interesting.
Oh, we do? I don't have that.
Yeah. You don't have that?
No, I've got the person with the plus sign, the microphone, the camera, volume. Oh no, the adjust bandwidth settings. And
I haven't got the person with the plus sign anymore.
Oh, maybe that's because you can't add. Maybe you're not allowed.
Yeah, that'd be right. I'm barred from every bloody thing. Now I've lost that button completely. It's gone.
Oh, that is peculiar.
And it actually said hide participants, which was different. So yeah, whatever, mate. What's going on? What's going on anyway?
Wow.
How's your life work going?
My life's work.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean it's constant, isn't it? At the minute. FTSE, it weakened a bit yesterday. I've actually taken a bit another long. It was I was long yesterday around about this point, and it popped forward, which was great, but then it popped back again, and I had my stop at break even because it's really just a hedge. But it came a bit further down and bounced, and the annoying thing was I was watching this level, but I was also trying to deal with my 3-year-old, which was pretty tough going. So I couldn't really do much about it when it started to go back to the upside. I missed it by probably about 15 minutes or so. And it came down here and consolidated, and subsequently I've had to get back into the upside at a price that I didn't love, but it was it was necessary, and I'm okay with it because actually it is starting to look that there's a chance now that we could move forward, which is what I want. You know, I want it to really up here. I want the market to start to strengthen it. There's a little level that I've drawn off that I would be looking at as a first target, and it's somewhere along the pattern here. That's the level that I'm really looking at. It appears to me that we've got something of a channel, and we're just kind of like starting to move towards that channel. I'm not sure if we're going to go through that at the first time of asking or not. It's a little bit tricky to actually ascertain what's going on here, but that wouldn't be a bad target, for a little intraday spring to the upside. So I'll be more than happy to take some profit up there, and then see what happens if we drift back down again, and let the market effectively decide what's going to happen. But it is a tricky area. The chart has now got a little bit more difficult. It
looks a whole lot difficult to me. It's really starting to compress into a smaller structure indeed. And there's the hint of an ascending triangle forming there.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of nothing going on really.
Yeah, there absolutely is, and I suppose but because of that, I guess I'll look for it to touch the upper lines, rather than playing anything round here. This almost looks like a complex-looking inverted head and shoulders, so it looks like it might bash its head up there. Overnight, had a terrible night here for a 3-year-old playing up, but it subsequently it meant that I was up listening to the news around about 2 o'clock this morning, right the way through till 5, and yeah, nice. It wasn't great, but I got a little insight into what was moving the market, and overnight it sounds to me like Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have arranged to meet to resume trade talks again, which I think the market quite liked. So we saw the Nikkei managed to kind of get a pretty decent pop forward off the back of that. Now they also had some CPI numbers, which we will have to check, but yeah, the Nikkei popped forward fairly significantly in the morning, and it was a bit of a grind, after that. And I wonder whether we're seeing something similar with the FTSE, whether we actually go any higher from here, or whether it does start to drift back. But if I bring your attention to the 4-hour chart, this is the one that I think is the most interesting, because as this market came down, and I was looking at this bar yesterday, and for me, this becomes a buying bar. Not necessarily a trigger, but a bar that would suggest that you should be looking at the long. Because it's touched the level and so significantly and convincingly refused it. It's a bar that you can't really ignore. So you have to start looking at the long again. And that's really what happened. So, from there, we got a very, very small bit of price action, and then it took off. It's taken out this close and this close, but not the high. So I'm just looking to see whether this morning we continue to drift to the upside and pop into this area here. There was also an agreement for the debt ceiling in America as well, which would have meant that they were going to be running out of some room by September, but they've come to an agreement on that. So I think that would be good for the market as well, and be good for the S&P certainly. So it doesn't appear that global markets are ready to start falling just yet, and if anything, if this drifts back, then I'll probably add to the position and take another long, because it looks to me like we're much more likely to touch this upper level than break down this lower level at this particular stage. So bullish price action. Seems to me that there's bullish sentiment out there, mate. I don't really want to go against that, and I don't see at this stage anything that could take us in the opposite direction, and that seems to be the pivotal point right now. That every time the market does pretty much, it collapses pretty quickly to the downside when it goes. This is a fairly swift move, but it just gets held up. I mean, this was the very first bar of the morning, got held up, came all the way back down again, got held up. I think we're going to look for something. We're going to need something a little more significant to take this market lower. Because every piece of bad news that's out there, and you can add the Iranian situation to that, just because it is getting absorbed, which looks to me like a market that just wants to continue to slowly and possibly painfully just grind itself higher.
Pain in the ass market. That's what I call it.
It is, mate. Yeah, it is. It is. It's one of those you kind of need to see a break in one direction or another.
Yeah, but it's not. It's just not happening.
No.
So for me, I mean, that's not such a bad thing for me if it actually does bounce off support and resistance. I'm happy, but as far as breakouts are concerned, no. I tried another one on the 30-minute chart last night. That failed.
On which
euro dollar?
On euro dollar. Okay. Yeah. Euro. Yeah. Well, the euro does continue to weaken against the dollar. I think the dollar across the board was stronger yesterday, and it has started to break down now, hasn't it? You got to look at this lower level.
Yes, absolutely. It's broken through that support. Well, you can see it clearly on your chart, I'm sure. Support trend line going through there from that low. That's now been smashed, and they're now at the horizontal level that you've just pointed out. So.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? I suppose it would be a bounce and retest and an entry from this trend line, wouldn't it? Would be what we're looking at.
Yeah, look, there's a big head and shoulders sitting there. No
Yeah.
question. That's the neckline also that's just been broken, basically.
Yeah. God, I mean, if that was to play out,
Mm.
that would be fairly significant. I mean, it's
Absolutely, it's a big one.
it's a big one. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure where you'd necessarily draw the right shoulder from or to, but I suppose if it's going to be somewhere around that area. I suspect. And this is the thing, you see. The FTSE 100 has shown me some patterns that just haven't actually played out. So this one may not play out either, and we might
Oh,
get
yeah.
something new. Where does that leave us? Yeah, there's every chance, isn't there? Every chance. I don't see any major support. Well, I suppose there's a little bit of support down at this level. So yeah, that points to 1.106, 1.1065. So yeah, I see that with the euro.
Yep. It was always a question mark, that support level, and now it looks as though we're going to have a real good test of it. And if we do get a close and a retest of that trend line in particular, which, as I say, is probably very close to a neckline area, then this could well go. We'll see.
What about that, mate? That looks a bit different, doesn't it? When we look at this on the daily, this was. Oh, that makes it really tricky. That's a really sloppy looking chart, isn't it? That makes it very difficult.
Most of them are at the moment.
Yeah.
It's each way all day, as my father, a bookmaker, used to call it. Not real sure.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next? But yeah, look, same old. There's always a case for one and the other. It's just which is the stronger case, and if there is a stronger case, that's the question.
I'll tell you what I was looking at last night, and you're going to be a lot more informed about this than I certainly am. But I was checking out the Aussie dollar, and just really kind of looking at how clean the trends have been. I was looking at a 4-hour chart really, and just seeing from April how good the trends have been. Even in March it was a little bit sticky, but when we seem to burst through a level, we seem to test the area it came through. Different one there, but it did hold trend structure. That one was a complete turnaround, and actually it respected the fact that when it did actually take out that level, it was another move to the downside, a big move to the downside. But again, it comes down, seems to test where it came from, comes down, tested the market structure, but continues to fall. And then back to the upside very recently, just really nice kind of steps going back up again.
Yeah, look, it's not a bad pair to trade, actually. It's fairly reliable once it does start into those structures. You can pretty much, I won't say bank on it going to the next level or even bouncing off the previous one, but it does tend to respect where it's been and where it looks like it's going. I absolutely agree with that. I've actually got an order in place on that at the moment, and it's on the daily chart, actually.
Little area of support possibly here on the daily chart. Okay, should I pass you on?
Yep, sure. Let's see if that's going to work.
You potentially have the screen.
Okay, you pass it to me, do you? I then take it. It probably negates it.
Maybe, yeah. like two positives. Oh, mind you, that is a positive.
I can see it. Okay, it's looking all right. Okay, so this morning in fact, it wasn't this morning, it was yesterday, and I said as much in my analysis in the free show last night that I would place an order long above this bar here if the current candle, which was this one yesterday, didn't actually take out the low, which it didn't. But since, of course, it has, or price has, not that candle. I said at the time this morning when I placed this order long that there would almost certainly be a better entry than where we've got ours, and I'll be looking out for that. And that now appears to be the case. But again, going back to what you just said, we've got higher highs, higher lows now. I'll be looking for another one, and that could be as deep as here, down the monthly pivot. So it could even be as deep as here, probably. So there may well be plenty of downside in this before there's upside.
Right.
And is there to be upside? Is again the next question, and the whole world seems to be saying yes to me. The commodity currencies are still performing well. They're the best performed currencies this month, by a long way against the dollar, the CAD, the Kiwi, and the Aussie.
Oh, do you know, mate? I saw a chart of iron the other day. I haven't unfortunately got it on this particular platform, but somebody was illustrating the move in some of the commodity metals.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a chart of iron, and it's just gone through the roof. And I know Australia is quite exposed to that market, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, Western Australia cock the hoop at the moment with all of those sort of things going on. There are massive deposits of iron ore over there, and that would be very much in concert with why the Aussie is rallying. No doubt about that. And as I've always said. You just watch the gold market, and you can guarantee that the Aussie won't be too far behind it. And that's a whole lot of what's going on here. I must do that demonstration again one time.
Yeah, I mean, why is that? That's really interesting, because is it that exposed to gold?
Oh no, it's not. I really can't give you why the correlation is there, and I don't think it's even a recognised thing. It's just something that I've picked up and noticed over the time. It lags it by some degree. It's not okay. Gold's going up, the Aussie's going up the same day. It might be 2-3 days later that starts to pick up, which is really cool. If you actually want to follow it, because it gives you plenty of time to get into the market.
Yeah.
But there are far worse things to do than trade Aussie US dollar when gold is trending or taking off or moving. Absolutely
interesting. Gold is under a bit of pressure this morning, I noticed as well.
Well, Aussie is as well, but actually, if you look at the Aussie chart and the gold chart together right now, there's not too much difference between them in terms of right now, and I'm not talking about overall. Let me try the weekly chart, go a little bit wider. Let me try the monthly chart, go a bit wider. There we go. There's gold on the monthly chart.
Yeah.
Aussie chart. Where'd it go? There. There's not a whole lot of difference.
So they reverse each other effectively. Do you mean?
No.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Come off the highs in May of 2011. 2011, May of 2011, we've come off the highs. We bottomed November 2015 in the Aussie. I keep going to that wrong thing. November of 2015 will be in here somewhere.
Yeah.
And we've bottomed here, exactly the same.
Yeah.
We've rallied into September of 2016, let's say, on the gold. September of 2016 is in here somewhere. We've rallied up to there. We've peaked. When did we peak? On, let's say, December 2017 on the Aussie. And back to gold. We peaked in November of 2017. We've now broken this major resistance level in gold last week, as we all know. Aussie hasn't yet done that. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
In fact, that's very interesting. So if we are to see the Aussie follow gold, we are at that major resistance level right now. So there's a potential break to the high side here on Aussie, only on that basis,
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the birds are singing Aussie long. I don't know, but they are, and I guess while ever those precious metals are going strong, in particular, as you say, iron ore, copper, while ever that's going on, then you're going to see the Aussie buoyant. There's no question about that. Whether it can, on a technical level, burst through here right now, I suppose, is questionable, and that's what we're seeing today. We're seeing a level of the bloody word I'm looking for. I say it 100 times a day.
Compliments?
No. What are these things? Resistance. My God, it just wouldn't come to me.
Sorry, mate. I've got to manage something real quick. So you carry on.
Go, mate. Yeah, go. So that's why we're probably seeing, that pullback at the moment. Whether it's sustainable or otherwise, of course, the pullback I'm talking about is another question. And that's why, I've got this long in the market at the moment. It's one of my just in case trades, if you like. FOMO, yeah, call it a FOMO if you want. That's all good. But I'd hate to think that the price I'm waiting for down here and the setup that I'm waiting for down here or here or here or here, as I say, if they don't happen, then I need to be relaxed, I suppose, in the knowledge that at least I do have the breakout covered if that does happen. Yes, I would like to trade to the breakout, and I'm absolutely aware of that. And if we do get a nice little level down here or even down here, a little reversal, nice little bit of action off a trend line, something like that, then I'm in for sure down at this level. But yeah, that's why I think, mate, the Aussies has got potential. I don't like to follow the lemmings over the cliff, I must say. But if there is an opportunity down here, I think that's the go. Aussie long until this level, I guess, is taken out, and then in turn this level. And if you'd asked me 3 months ago, when we started, I guess, leading the charge for rate cuts, I would have said, no, you've got Buckley's, the Aussie's going south in a handbasket. But the whole world is now caught onto this interest rate cut. So it's like it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
Because everyone's headed to zero, it would appear. So that in itself confounds me. And I've seen this happening for a while, If the US dollar has been, or the US have had interest rates of 2.5%, and the rest of the world is at zero, negative in some cases, 1.5, 1.75, I think, would be the best. That would have been the Kiwi. So, almost 1 point differential in interest rates. Yet the US dollar, believe it or not, in the face of that, has weakened to a lot of currencies in 2019. We're looking at the Aussie here right now. The Aussie's been strong throughout 2019.
Yeah.
The second quarter, if you like, of 2019, it's really fought back. And in the face of interest rate cuts, this is what I don't understand. The Aussie has cut interest rates in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And the American or the US have not until last time.
Yeah.
But still, we're seeing this rally, and Kiwi's the same, CAD's the same. Don't get it. The only thing that really is beating the US dollar in the second quarter of 2019 is the yen. Go figure. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
The yen is at negative interest rates, so the interest rate differential is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's as we continuously say, we live in such peculiar times. Very, very strange. Some of the moves and the price action and the way the market reacts in currently is just well, it's topsy-turvy, isn't it? It's just completely backwards to a degree.
Well, we're in a new paradigm. There's no doubt about that. We've got to reset and rethink. I think traditional or it would seem traditional wisdom or conventional wisdom is being challenged, from a big height, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, from a great height.
Yeah, look, that's okay. It happens from time to time, and that's why we have to, I guess, adjust the way we think and adjust the way we trade, adjust the way where we put our entries, where we put our stops, where we take profit. All those sorts of things have to be done.
Yeah.
And, I think the strategies, certainly mine, is undergoing that very much at the moment, because I don't see a market that is familiar to me. This is a very strange occurrence. Yes, there's certain aspects that are the same, but when I try to line up anything from a fundamental point of view, it's not making a lot of sense to me at all. Oh, that's why you had to leave.
Yes, yeah, I'm still slightly distracted. I've got about another 5 or 6 pips I'm trying to grab out of this.
Yep.
So I'm just going to see what happens here and see if I can get it.
Okay, well, I'll leave you with that, and I'll continue to go through.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm listening to you. I'm just
yeah, all good.
I'm just watching this chart, this price action. I need looking at 75.06, and it's just around about 74.96 at the minute.
No drama. We spoke a little bit about the euro, and the euro. Let's talk about that from a big picture perspective. And look, I said this morning, and why I haven't taken this trade, I've got no idea. I really don't have any idea, frankly. Maybe it's because of what I've just spoken about. But this is a very clear false break of the top of this descending channel that we've got here. And we've had the break, we've had consolidation, we've had a re-entry, and we've now had a retest of that area. Now we're looking to break that area, and why I didn't place an order under there, as I said, I'm not too sure. Maybe no, I'm not too sure. I'll stick with that. There's an obvious level here, this level here, which is representative of 111.20-ish, 111.20 to 111.40, something like that, which is an obvious, take profit level. But then, and I think I said this in my analysis yesterday or this morning, can't remember which, that if we break this level, we're suddenly down here, 109.50, 109.60 area, and we could have got in here at 112 almost, with a risk of about 100 pips. Wouldn't have been a bad trade, 2 to 1, without too much effort. So, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed I didn't take that. But that said, there may well be a better opportunity. Well, not a better opportunity. There may well be a second opportunity to actually get into this. And at this stage, of course, it's only preliminary. Hasn't got through the first level of support yet. So I may be talking way ahead of time, which maybe is why I was thinking, okay, in fact, I think I said it, let's allow this level to break and then look for a trade short on the retest. Because after all, really, we've still got a triple bottom here, a higher low, a higher high, higher high, higher low, which has now just been taken out, but this could still well be an equal low, which still doesn't take the structure away from us. So, anything is possible here as far as I'm concerned on euro dollar. I'll see what happens with this candle today. And at the moment, of course, it looks very bearish. That can change in a heartbeat, but we'll see. Cable. Hoi, hoi, hoi. How much fun do I have with this cross? I don't know. I'm just losing. I'm losing the different permutations around. As I said in the show last night, how many different weaves and bobs and permutations have we had to Brexit, and how many different opportunities, I guess, from a technical point of view, have there been to jump into pound US dollar long, yet nothing happens. It just continues to fall every single day or every single second day. You might get a rally, but then bang, that's taken out. You get a rally, bang, it's taken out. You get a rally, bang, it's taken out. It happens, almost, as I say, every single. This is a weekly chart. The daily chart's no different. It's very much a case of everybody, as soon as they see a rally, jumps into the selling position, and look, that's called a trend at the end of the day, and that's very much what we've seen since March, definitely on this chart. But if you go back further, it's exactly the same on every other. The interesting part for me is always going to be playing the structures, and the structure here is still telling me that I've got a double bottom and I've got a tweezer bottom sitting here. This one yet to have a close below, this one yet to be breached. So whilst ever that's the case, I'm still going to play what the market's telling me, or what the structure's telling me. The structure's telling me that this can still go long at this level off these structures, which the candle pattern's very clear. It's a tweezer bottom, and I've got to place an entry above that and a stop loss below it, which is exactly what I've done. Again, it's a weekly chart. We tried this, I don't know, 5 weeks ago we tried it. We got a TP1, didn't lose anything on that occasion. 8 weeks ago we tried it. 9 weeks ago we tried it, and we got tipped in. I was probably a little bit ambitious with that bar, to be fair, but I was playing a higher low off this double bottom. Now we don't have a higher low, but we do have a tweezer bottom. So it's exactly the same scenario. And if this low gets taken out, then all bets are off, of course. But if it doesn't, then I maintain that this is probably the place to get in. It's not the best price, without question. If you're thinking long and you find a reason down here, then go for it. Finding that reason is going to be the hard part. But there is a reason here for me to take the long. And whilst ever that's the case, I'll do so. Take profit before the monthly pivot, just to get yourself a little bit safer in the market. But definitely leave something open for here, which is 3 to 1 at least up to here. And then if you get really lucky, you're looking at 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 to 1 or something up here. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but stranger things have happened. And that's exactly why I'm taking that position. I think the reward available for the risk that I'm prepared to take is crazy, and that's why I'm happy to do so. So they're the majors pretty much covered. If I have a look at the minors or the crosses, then I swing towards wherever I see a market structure, and the market structure I see is this one here. It's been broken a couple of times, once to the downside, once to the high side, now a second time to the high side. We are at a resistance level, however, known as the monthly pivot. There's also a horizontal level through here, and I'd be expecting a bounce back towards this area. Whether we get it or not is another story. Aussie CAD is very much reliant on commodities, as we know, both of them, some for different reasons. Aussie in particular, as Ash just said, on iron ore and coal. CAD's on coal as well, but oil very much in play for the CAD. So if I have a look at the oil chart, let's see what that's doing today. Again, that's gone into consolidation, but double bottom, higher low, higher high, another higher high, higher low, and bang into consolidation. So
yeah, interesting that the everything's calmed down, with that scenario as well. People, and this I just find it fascinating, really.
Me too. That surprises me.
Yeah, you'd think that there'd be enough nervousness out there, considering where we are in not only in the business cycle but in the price with some of these equities, that there would be a bit more selling. But as I say, I just think we're going to get this slow and difficult, painful grind to the upside. I don't really know what's going to take this market lower.
Yeah, look, on oil, I talk logically rather than trying to actually follow fundamentals. I listen to them, and I think, okay, logically, if we're going to have strife and we're going to have oil supply issues, maybe wars, then why wouldn't oil rally for mine? So I'm of that bias that oil's got a rally and it's going to take the CAD with it.
Yeah.
The CAD, I think, as I've said 100 times in the last month or so, fundamentally has got some of the best set of numbers that you can find in around the world.
Yeah.
It's had two mediocre in the last week or so, which is a little bit of an issue. But really, the CAD is. You've got every reason to be confident that the CAD should outperform most of these currencies based on the numbers that they keep producing.
Yeah.
And I've been in that sort of quadrant for ages, a month or more. It now gets interesting with the oil because that's now, I guess it's pretty much a binary situation where, okay, if that does escalate and we do get an oil crisis, then this is going up to 70 cents, maybe even beyond. But if the status quo is maintained, then at the end of the day, we've got a pretty decent retracement on a downtrend. Maybe that continues. So it's a tough call. It always is when there's little bits of strife or.
Yeah, I mean, we just want the charts to always be like they were from January to around about the end of April, don't we?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't. I don't mind as long as we get decent, retracements. If we only get little blips like a candle or two like this, no use to him. But if we get nice retracements like this, that's really cool. We can play those, no problem at all. So in that regard, yes, I'd like to see that. One there, eminently tradable. This one also tradable if it goes on for a couple of weeks, as this one did. We can play the bounces off support and resistance, or I can. That's the way I trade.
Yeah.
Same here. But if they're one or two candle retracements where you've really got no chance of getting like that, it's really tough to get into the market there because you're waiting for something far deeper. You've got a big rally here. You've got to wait for retracement of some sort here, and that's really probably not enough. That said, when the market does get into a strong buying situation, let me think of a currency pair. There's one that immediately springs to mind.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's extremely difficult to ignore anything that at least goes sideways, because anything that's strong is really just going into pause. But to have the kahunas to trade this, what have you got? This is daily chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 days without any sign of a pullback, much less a retracement. And even that bar, how can you think about trading short there? You can't. That's so strong. And then you get 1 day's relief. Buyers come back. You get a little bit of consolidation, then whoosh, away she goes again. It's what our good mate Roy calls zero retracement. When you a market that's so strong, when it does go into this pattern of, let's call it a rectangle, when it does go into this pattern, the high probability is it's going to break to the high side if it does go into consolidation without retracement, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
So if you do find a strong market like that, then take note of that. It's very much a case in point, and I do like it. It's a good way to go. But yeah, look, what happens with that oil situation is a little bit beyond me. That makes, in particular, Aussie CAD a little bit tough to trade because they're so correlated in terms of resources. Pound Aussie. Yeah, look, I've been trying to get long that. I don't know for how long, but I've kind of gone off the boil on that in the last week or so for the long, because I start seeing, these are the retracements, exactly what I was just talking about. You can trade these retracements, and as soon as they start to break out, if you get a retest, happy days. That's what you're looking for, exactly what you're looking for. this has broken out and has retested. So again, exactly what you're looking for. Can I trade that? Probably a bit late, to be fair. Why didn't I notice that earlier? It's interesting, isn't it? It's a bit ugly, actually.
The pound Aussie.
But yeah, I can definitely see why you'd want to be trading this short at the moment. You know, there's the retracement I've just been speaking about. Beautiful retracement, break short. You know, the
Well, we have the
real
announcement, of course, today.
Yes, today, of course. Not quite a retest here, so you're probably not going to trade that short, which would be a good thing. But you definitely have a retest here. But then I see this, which is telling me long, which is telling me false break of this trend line. So that's how confusing this can be. I wouldn't look to trade that either because I'm trading straight into the daily pivot and the weekly pivot. So I'd be probably saved by that fact. Now it's just confusing because which way is it going? But, you know, if I look back at this in 3 weeks, 6 weeks time, what I'll see on the daily chart is a beautiful retracement leg that's been broken and retested. Yeah. I've got to find a way into that, Ash, I think.
Yeah, what long?
No, short.
Going short, yeah. Well, as I say, the announcements today. I'm just checking.
Yeah, I think it probably won't be today that I'll look to trade. If I was, and I'm still in euro pound short. I think if I look at my other account, I would be nothing dramatic. Yeah, look, it's about break even actually. A little bit ahead on pound. On euro pound.
Midday, it's going to be announced our time, so we're looking at another 3.5 hours ish, and we're going to get the announcement for the for Boris Johnson to be the leader of the Conservative Party. And you know what? His majority, by the looks of things, is down to 1, which is no majority at all. So I think as soon as he finds it difficult to get anything passed through Parliament, there's going to be a general election. You know, so it's looking more and more likely that's going to happen. We've got Philip Hammond and David Gauke resigned. There was another resignation last night as well. So if he does have that majority of 1, I don't think he's going to get anything through. I think he's going to be defeated, you know, quite regularly.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it?
Oh, mate. Well, I mean, it just throws us back into further turmoil. So yeah, I can't see how this really plays out positively for UK politics.
Very sad, very, very sad to see it happen.
Yeah, it is. And do you know what's really interesting is that Jeremy Hunt turned to the Europeans to ask for help to chaperone some of the tankers through. So he hasn't turned to America. You know, America want this kind of this zero tolerance, you know, situation, and the Iranians really, they've got a real knot in their stomach about the UK stopping one of their ships in Gibraltar. Because the UK boarded one of their ships in Gibraltar, saying that it was taking oil to Syria, and that is Spanish water around there, and the Spanish weren't in agreement effectively with the UK on that. So what's fascinating about that becomes that the Iranians have now assumed that they are doing the United States bidding by boarding that ship and effectively taking that ship of theirs. And that's why they've done the same to the United Kingdom. I think they would, you know, they're obviously just waiting for the opportunity, lying in wait for the opportunity to do the same thing to the UK, because they see this as a bit of a tit for tat scenario. And Jeremy Hunt hasn't gone down the, you know, if that was true, Jeremy Hunt hasn't gone to the Americans and said, right, let's go in and together we'll police that area. He's turned to the Europeans to ask for the partnership to be with those guys instead. And the UK is leaving the EU. You know, so it's a really interesting kind of paradigm, and maybe this is possibly from this kind of conflict and maybe from this disharmony that's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe this is what we see that could be the thing that turns Brexit. You know, if maybe some of those Brexiteers see the Europeans agree to help the UK out, maybe they start having a completely different opinion and understand that actually, you know, we are much better off in this wider club. And even a European army wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because the UK army is not sufficient to be able to effectively protect its own citizens, never mind its own commodities.
Interesting. A final twist of fate at the 11th hour, you think, maybe?
Well, who knows, mate? Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
this thing has just gone. You know,
well, as I said before, there's been so many permutations in the
Yeah.
last 2.5 years. It's crazy.
Yes, it absolutely is. It is. It's a mad scenario we've got, and yeah, as I say, you know, who knows what could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Boris Johnson's majority down to 1. You know, major highly qualified MPs resigning. A conflict in the Strait of Hormuz that we turn to the Europeans for. This may well go back to the people, or at very, very least, a general election will likely be called. But I don't think Boris Johnson would have particularly been that enamored with taking on this particular, you know, the job in this particular environment. And what was interesting is he turned down the job effectively when he was up against Theresa May. You know, he walked away from that opportunity then, and I think he probably assumed that it was just too difficult, and he's walked into a much more tricky situation now. You know, Theresa May is not looking too bad at all right now. You know, the fact that she couldn't get it through Parliament, at least she had something of a majority. In some of the battles that she was fighting. It doesn't look like Boris Johnson's going to be afforded the same support whatsoever. So I think he's probably misjudged this, and he's probably misjudged it because of a complete lack of humility.
Kind of a job you wouldn't want, really, isn't
Oh,
it?
mate,
At the end
yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Yeah.
No, I'll pass. I'll wait a couple of years before I come back.
Poison chalice, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, without question. But I guess somebody's got to step up and do it, and I guess they look at that as, and he is clearly, as you said before, you know, he's Winston Churchill in his own mind. And
he is. Yeah, he is. And you know what's really interesting? We've just had the Liberal Democrats is a lesser known party. They were in coalition with the Conservatives a couple of terms ago, and they effectively rode back on a policy on making education free, university education for free. They rode back on that after being put under pressure by the Conservatives, and their popularity really dropped. So I think they ended up with around about 4 to 6 MPs off something that was more like 40 when they were in government. So their popularity really did wane, but that has started to come back, and I think they've got around about 12 now. They've had a few defectors go over to them as well from Labour, so they're around about 12 MPs. They've just voted in a new leader, a girl or a lady called Jo Swinson. And their popularity increased during the European elections, just as the Brexit Party did, to be fair. So, you know, the country was still fairly polarized on that. But their popularity within the wider polling is around about 20%. And you've got those guys on around about 20%, Conservatives on around about 25%. The Labour Party on around about the same, the Brexit Party on around about 20%, and then there's a few percent shared between some of the lesser parties from there. But what it is suggesting is that that UK politics is starting to go in the similar sort of direction to Germany, where coalition governments are going to be probably a lot more likely, certainly in the coming years. In the immediate coming years, so you might not have the majorities that we had. You know, it could actually be the end of the kind of one-party or two-party politics that we've had so far.
I would have to applaud such a situation, because, you know, we've all been down this road for many, many moons, where you're only voting for one or the other. There's no true democracy in place.
No.
It's a two-horse race, and Australia is exactly the same, has been for many years. And I would suggest most countries in the world are, certainly most developed countries in the world are like that. Maybe this is the era of change, and certainly we're seeing it in markets. Why don't we see it throughout the rest of society? It looks promising. I've got to say.
It does,
I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think hopefully it's an era for change for good rather than for bad, which is what we've really seen, in America. I won't completely discard that Donald Trump has done some good things. I'm sure he has, and I'm sure the the US economy is benefiting from his particular stance. But there are so many other wider, broader, worldwide issues that he is, ignoring and just very dangerous on that period of change hasn't been particularly good. So let's hope that the next change that we get is actually a positive, and we actually see some light, and some lighter things coming through, where we do kind of focus more on peace, and we focus more on the environment, and actually saving this planet rather than completely continuing to bludgeon it for self-gain.
Well, it's not going to be the current generation that does that, unfortunately. The current generation is far too used to having, in terms of developed countries I'm talking about, and capitalist-driven countries, they're too far gone. They're not going to change their ways. We're now seeing a great and sustained push for getting rid of plastics.
Yes.
In the oceans. Thank God for that.
Yes.
And that's fantastic. But this will all be driven not by Donald Trump, because that's not in his best interest, not by any capitalist country, because they need profit to keep going. Everything is all about the bottom line. It's not about saving the planet. It's about getting as much capital behind them as they possibly can. And that's too far ingrained in them to go in a different direction. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. There are philanthropists out there that are doing great things. There's quite a few of them also get knocked and pilloried for, I'm not sure what reason. Bill Gates comes to mind. Where his programs and foundations are supposedly doing wonderful things. I don't know too much about it, to be fair, but I also hear a whole lot of knockers behind him for whatever reason, and his wife for whatever reason. So, I don't think, whilst there are those people out there who are philanthropists, there are also these people who couldn't give a toss. It's all about money, and nothing will change that. So the change won't come from that generation. It will have to come from, and we're seeing it. Look at Hong Kong at the moment. That's not an environmental thing, but look at the riots that are going on there. People just standing up and saying no. You're not ruling us anymore. That's not the way we want to go. This is our life, and we want to make change. Look at the kids in America who were standing up and saying, "Look, get these guns out of our schools." What the hell? What do you? We're under pressure every single day of our lives because we think somebody's going to walk through the door with a gun in their hand and start shooting at us. So the kids understand that their future is very much at risk because of the, let's call it, the capitalist way, where everything has been all about money, nothing to do with the planet. The indigenous people of just about every continent in the world knew exactly how to maintain the status quo, how to live off the land and let the land produce for them. We've forgotten all that. That it's the development of, or developed countries have got so much to answer for in terms of the planet that it's just simply not funny.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, mate. I suppose the question really is will they get the opportunity to do that? You know, will it be too late by the time the generation that actually could change things are have enough power?
No, look, I've got great faith, and the image that sticks in my mind is the one in Tiananmen Square, where a single person stopped the tank.
Yes.
And that gives me faith that it can be reversed, or it can be addressed. And at some point, there are still human beings that can recognise when the fight is not worth the result at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
I've got faith that the young generation will find a way. I don't have any faith at all in the current generation or the current rulers of the world, because they're too far gone. They're too far ingrained. But there'll be young bucks come up.
They will, mate. Yes, they absolutely will. Yeah, yeah. As I say, I hope they have enough time.
Yeah, sure. That's the big question, isn't it? Really, is there time? And there are people, Donald Trump being one of them. There's no climate change. There's no anything. It's business as usual.
Oh, I heard his talk on plastic straws. There were sort of, and his reaction was that there are bigger things than plastic straw. He's sort of like saying, what about all the other bigger bits of plastic? It's like, well, you've got to start somewhere, and just because you got these other problems, it doesn't mean that you ignore something which really is, fundamentally important, like the dumping of plastic straws. And I think that growing bamboo just shows you don't need it. You don't need plastic in the same way. And obviously it's the petroleum, isn't it, that people are really concerned, or one of the reasons that people are really concerned, the petroleum in the creation
of all of our fossil fuels. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. When they're kind of creating these things, that they're sort of they're using too much of that, so they've got to find a way to stop using petroleum to actually that's affecting climate change, to create straws and whatever else, no matter what they're made of. But there was a report today actually of a company who are going to they're paying lots of money to lots of sawmills and getting sawdust to make straws out of sawdust, and also sugarcane is being used in making straws as well. So there's quite a few companies that are doing trying to do the right thing and being forward thinking about everything.
There are the issues I have along those lines are that. And I can give you a few examples because I live in the space now, pretty much. I'm looking for, renewable, recyclable. If not so much recyclable, because you've still got to create the prototype or the first one for it to be recycled. So I'm more in the space of, in particular, bamboo, hemp, sugarcane, all of those sorts of products that are absolutely sustainable. And the issue I now have with that is it's now become popular, and therefore you've got people doing these, I won't say shady deals, but what I will say is it's now become a populist retail scenario. So again, we're just going straight back to capitalism when we don't need to be there. It's the last place we need to be. We need to be in a space where the supermarkets are charging for single-use plastic now, and have been for ages in Australia here. Not for single-use, but for multi-use plastic bags. So they don't have those in the supermarket. The single-use ones, they don't have them anymore. The irony for me entirely is, and our local supermarket here has had for ages, everything that's plastic containers on their shelves, instead of just emptying their shelves, they put them up for half price.
Right.
When I think about that, do I say, Well, at least they're having a go. At least they're recognising something. But the other side of me says, hang on a minute, they're probably still making a profit on this line, and they're still selling the bloody thing. So they're still putting it out. They're still putting it in the system.
Yeah.
So how do
Yeah.
you win under those
Yeah.
circumstances? Really?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's money under nothing else trumps money. Even if the world ends tomorrow, we've still got to make money on this.
Yeah.
To me, it's just it's really sickening at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And look, I haven't paid any attention to this throughout my life, to be fair. And I was one of the throng, and I still do use power that's generated by coal. Unfortunately, and there are things that I don't do that I probably should be doing. But once you realise how foolish we have been and how stupid the world has been and how bad man has been for the planet, you've really got to start to think. You really do.
Mm. Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of my little soapbox, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I suppose bringing it back to trading, how do we use that for trading? I suppose you'd have to look at certain companies, which is, I guess, not what we're really doing here, is it?
I think rather than thinking about trading, maybe we should be investing in these companies, that are producing renewable resources and sustainable resources. I think that's probably the way to go. I think, well, certainly trading them is not going to hurt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think there's upside in just about any one of those particular areas. Well, I would hope there is. And if there isn't, we're all going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Look, I think there are far worse things to look at than, and to be absolutely fair, perhaps we need to do that. And we probably make that an exercise in the next couple of weeks. Let's find some companies that are worth our money,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I've got a few that I've got a really good program that analyzes stocks, and that might be something that we can, for sure, look a little bit further into.
Cool. Let's do that.
Okay, mate. I'll put it as one of the jobs. Put it down as one of our jobs.
Happy days. I'm just having a look at this chart at the moment. It's Aussie. And it's a 3-pip candle. Man, that's what makes it so hard at the moment. The liquidity is so poor at most times on the smaller time frames. It's nearly impossible to trade.
Do you know, I don't know one commentator that isn't saying effectively the same as us, that that things have changed so drastically with investing that that you almost have to, potentially you're almost retraining yourself. It's not. We're just not in the same environment as we used to be, and actually trying to find the new way that we should be trading is probably one of the greatest challenges that we find. And actually, really, it should benefit certainly you and maybe me as well to a degree, because I do like looking at the shorter term time frames as well as the longer ones, because the market is in a phase where it does have these short term explosive moves, and because of social media and the people that seem to be using social media as well. That's the kind of environment that we're in, and looking at the shorter term charts should really be good for the likes of us. People that were investing, and it wasn't, quite a few investors that I've heard recently say that they're finding the environment for investing a lot more difficult, where before you could literally just buy and hold. It's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it's a challenge, and here's a perfect example where I don't know if we're still looking at my charts, but if we are, I'm on the Aussie dollar right now. And what I've got is a clear false break of this line here, right? Now, it may not be the line that I want to trade, to be fair, but if I look at that 30-minute chart again and go a little bit wider, yeah, it's probably not. Probably not. Okay, but I'll give you the for instance anyway. There's the line there that I would use, which is an entirely different kettle of fish, and I'll show you why. If I was to use the bottom line, which is actually a 4-hour trade line or trend line, I've actually got a break of that, consolidation, re-entry above. I haven't got the candle that I want to trade, which is a decisive bearish bar here, so I wouldn't be taking that trade. But if I look at the 30-minute bar or 30-minute chart, I've got a trend line coming through here, which has been broken and retested. So that's giving me two separate signals in exactly the same vicinity of the chart. If I was to choose the false break scenario, I've then got to use that candle there as my trading bar. So I put an entry above it and a stop loss below it. That gives me a risk of 3.7 pips. That means the market's got to move 4 pips and I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't do that. You know, that's just not possible. It's not logical. It's not feasible. But here's what's happening. Those scenarios, the patterns that I trade, are still working under these circumstances.
Yeah.
But I can't trade them. So
Yeah.
what I then need to do is exactly what you were just talking about. I need to find a way to do that. Now, if that means I have to put my stop under here and put my entry maybe 5-10 pips above that area where I want to trade, then maybe that's what I need to do, or I stay out. One of the two. But that's the frustration that I find at the moment. Yes, everything's working as it should in terms of, okay, we hit the bottom of a range, we bounce off it, or we hit a resistance area, we bounce off it. But the setups that I'm finding in those areas are, let's call it previously untradeable, because of the size of the position that I need to take. It's too small. But if you put that into context, you know, everything's small. The range yesterday on euro dollar was 19 pips. The range on the Aussie was 25. The range on the pound was, I think, 54. So something but you know, the pound US dollar is a far more volatile currency, and you still should be looking at, you know, 70, 80, 90 pips on a bad day. But, you know, to try and trade the most traded currency pair, and, you know, here's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, it's going, but how do you get in there?
Yeah.
A range of 19 pips there yesterday. What? You can't trade that. It's impossible to trade and make money. So, you know, these are definitely things that we need to be noticing, definitely, and trying to work out, I guess, a way to trade them from a traditional perspective, but with a new angle. And that's pretty much where I'm at. Yeah. But the bigger time frame's not an issue, but, you know, the 30-minute charts and the hourly charts, they are an issue because of these small candles, because of the compressed nature of the market. And as you say, if you do manage to get into a move, into the acceleration point, you've got to take profit pretty quick, because it ain't going to last too long. It just goes in the opposite direction. So that's where I'm at.
I think you're right. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's adapting what we've already, you know, what we already do, not necessarily coming up with a completely different strategy. You know, obviously our Bitcoin strategy is solid, and it's going to make a lot of money.
We got that nailed.
Yeah, down. But aside from that, you know, it is about adapting what has already been learned and already been I was going to say perfected, but you never really perfect anything, do you? You just kind of you just get efficient at it. So what we know,
you get it as good as it can for that period, you know, for that period of time.
Yeah. Well, the FTSE 100, just to kind of come back to what's going on over here, the FTSE 100 has spun to the upside, hit an area of resistance off that trend line, and it is currently putting in a very ominous looking hourly bar. Now we've still got another 10 minutes before this this bar is complete, but let me show you what we got here. Spun all the way to the top.
You might have to take the screen, mate.
Oh, sorry, buddy. There we go. How's that?
Yep, cooking with gas.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, cooking with bamboo, burnt bamboo. There you go.
Cooking with bamboo. Yeah, so we've got we had this move to the upside. We've hit this level of resistance up here, and rejected it. But not only rejected it, we're currently putting in this very ominous looking hourly bar right now, which is is currently suggesting that that the market, after the bluster that really was filtered through from the Asian session, has just completely died down and completely dissipated. So we got to wait another 10 minutes, and it's going to be fascinating to see what the next 10 minutes holds. The reason I say that is because you have to start looking at the 5-minute bars here. But what could happen is that this 5-minute bar now might pop to this area and actually start a little 5-minute trend to the downside. You know, that could be where we start effectively what is a new phase. So we could be moving back down into a lower area from here. Or we get to this point, and then the next 5-minute bar manages to kind of take out this area of resistance, and we do move higher, and the hourly bar doesn't look as ominous. But certainly for right now, this last 50 minutes has been, well, maybe not the last 50 minutes, because the first 10 or 15 were pretty bullish, but really from that we've well and truly eased back into the hourly bar. So I'm interested to see what happens now. There is a technical setup for some upside here. When we look at this 5-minute bar, what we have is a little trend line that we'd be looking for that to hold. When we look down at the RSI is kind of doing something very similar, which is something that I look for. Some nice bounces off the RSI. So if this RSI gets taken out and this trend line gets taken out, that would suggest that we would be looking for lower, rather than any more upside from this particular area. But for right now, the setup is still long. It's got to take out this point here. That's the big thing. It's got to take out that high, and if it does, I think the market may well push into the next region of upside. And I have to say, this was just one of those that worked out. There's a few. This is just one of those aspects of what's going on for me right now with this trade. But I did take a long in this area, and I did take. That's what I was doing when we were talking earlier. I took profit right on the high, just because it was on that trend line, and it's eased back to the downside again. So things are pretty good for me so far today.
Nice.
It's pretty good, mate. I mean, I could do with some either an explosive move to the upside, or because my stops are at break even, I wouldn't mind it coming down, taking my stops out and getting lower, just so I can get a slightly better price. But right now, I'm still in a long on a portion of the trade. So let's see what happens. But this is going to be key, really. This particular bar is the start of it, but the next bar is the key. Does it push back down into this trend line again, causing the hourly bar to look fairly negative, look like a shooting star, or does it manage to kind of get itself back up to this area, giving that hourly bar a much more bullish outlook?
Well, guess what? Wish I knew the answer, mate.
Do you know what? I can't believe that we've actually gone past the hour today, or we're getting close to the hour today. I just looked at the time; it's flown.
Well, mate, once we start rattling on about the world is about to end and all that sorts of things, it's
great for audience numbers. That
pretty easy. Actually, where were we last night? I thought My goodness, anyone listening to this is going to be thinking, doomsday. There's nothing positive. These guys are not talking anything positive at all.
Yeah, these two are hardly Laurel and Hardy. They're sort of.
Yeah, hardly. But anyway, look, I'm not going to trade anything right now. The only things that are moving are pretty much pound pairs and pound-related pairs for obvious reasons, because people are taking positions based on what they think is going to happen with this announcement later on. What time is it, mate?
It is 5 to 9.
No, the announcement.
Oh, it's what for? You mean for tomorrow?
I thought it was today. We're learning that Boris.
Oh, sorry, mate. We're talking about that. We're talking cross wires. It is at 12 o'clock, so we've got 3 hours.
3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a bit of movement on the pound pairs. It would appear that the market's thinking Mr. Boris won't be good for the pound, and that's gone into another day, another sell on the pound.
Yeah,
Who'd
you
be
know,
shocked at that?
it's really interesting because the more the story unfolds with Boris Johnson, the more it seems that it doesn't matter that he's in control. It won't matter that he's in control because he won't have control. I think it was a huge mistake for him to come out and say that he may shut down Parliament to get Brexit through, because it just rolled everybody's sleeves up, and everybody's come out punching, because even his supporters or let's say the people sitting on the fence rather than his supporters, because his supporters want Brexit to go through, but the people the people that were sat on the fence when he said that were just like, no, this isn't a dictatorship, this is a democracy, and we will have our say whether we agree with you or not. We are going to have our say. So it was a huge error. He's already made an error, isn't he? He's already made an error of judgment, but it was a huge error of judgment and the feeling of MPs to suggest that he was going to take away their power. Because why do you do the job? Why would you bother becoming an MP if you didn't have a say on the most key and important decision of a generation? If not one of the most important in history. So I think he's already messed up, mate. I think he could potentially be signing his death warrant politically. Even though he's about to start a new stepping into a new land and a new part of his career, he may already be started. He may have already signed his political death warrant by saying that one thing, and many of the other things.
As we said before, even if he said nothing, or whoever was stepping into this job, who'd want it? It's just not a place. It's not a no-win situation, but the odds are so stacked against you, and maybe that's why it is attractive to him, because as we said before, he thinks he's Churchill, and maybe he is at the end of the day. Who knows?
Well, who knows, mate? Maybe he is. I have to say that that if a general election did get called, it would be fascinating to see which parties did actually move towards power. Because if we did start to get a pro-Remain party, then we could forget this whole ridiculous notion that leaving the EU is this land of milk and honey, and actually start moving towards the UK, just taking its seat back in the world, rather than kind of like trying to stand alone or allying itself with Donald Trump and America. But that may be the as I said before about the Iranian thing. It may be that that the forcing of a general election could be the big moment in this whole process. After 3 years, maybe not only do we not get a Brexit, but maybe we actually move towards a completely different party that is not the Labour Party or the Conservatives. And things, really do change. The political landscape in this country really do change.
Got a funny feeling you're on the money, mate. I really do. I think that's who could vote for the incumbent government, given what they've just been through for the last 2.5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Who could possibly put them or return them to power? I
Absolutely.
don't see how that's entirely possible.
Absolutely, and do you know what? Everybody that is a Remainer will either vote for Labour if they come out and say that they're going to support Remain, or they will vote for the Liberal Democrats, and that takes off a huge amount from the Tories, and it will take a huge amount off the potential for Brexit happening. So so things, you know, things haven't really moved just yet, but things really could start to move if we get that general election. I think it would be a fascinating scenario if we got the general election, and I would welcome it wholeheartedly.
Mate, I got a funny feeling October 31st might be a reasonable session around a television set in Bali somewhere, watching this end potentially, or not.
Do you know, mate? I wouldn't be surprised if October the 31st just becomes a date that gets put in the bin before Bali. Wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't think there's enough appetite for it, and I don't think that there's enough control that Boris Johnson or anybody else would have to push that particular date forward. So I think a general election is probably more likely to happen before that. And if that's the case, then it will be put in the bin. And I think the European Union will be quite happy with that.
Be still worth a drink because
it will. Yes, it will. Yeah, yeah, it will. We'll be watching the TV, and it'll be dead space. Be Noel Edmonds' house party on instead.
Oh, there'll be something going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here.
Okay, mate. No worries. Just to kind of give you a final read on the FTSE's hourly bar, which was a doji, and a classic doji as well. It's you're not going to get a better looking example of a doji than that.
Yep.
Just expresses complete indecision. So any moves to the upside would suggest that they'd probably be sold off again, and any moves to the downside would have to have some kind of confirmation, and that's what you're looking for with a doji bar. We're really looking for a close above or a close below, just to give you a confirmation of what the market ended up deciding, because it just shows that it doesn't really know what's going on right now, and maybe this is what it's going to be for the next 3 hours until Boris Johnson is announced. We see some movement in the pound one way or the other, or not at all, and maybe that's when the FTSE takes its brakes off and either explodes to the upside or continues to pressure the lows.
Yeah, I'm not trading until after that announcement, certainly not pound or euro, and nothing else really has got any movement about it. I'm looking at 5 pip candles, and of no interest until after the announcement. So
great. All right, buddy.
I'll be back in the evening show for me in a few hours' time, and then of course it's back with us again tomorrow, and we'll talk about what happened, I suppose.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. We will discuss Boris Johnson, and assuming he's the one who's going to get in, and we'll discuss the pound and the FTSE in further detail then.
All right, mate. Good luck with the management, and we'll catch up tomorrow.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good rest of the day. I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Hooroo.